Gentlemen, we are gathered here today to discuss a most pressing matter. To the east, a new power rises, and it does so with violence and reckless abandon. A very threat to the stability we bring to the world, the Empire of Punjab throws aside all decorum in its haste to seek some form of ill-gotten gain or another. As the vanguards of this new age of civility, it falls on us to maintain order the world over, lest the barbarism and chaos spill into our domains. We are no foreigners to this kind of threat in Europe. We know what the thirst of one man can do, let alone that of an entire nation. No longer can we sit idly by as the so-called Maharajas of India do as they please, bringing countless millions under their boot. Their boldness must come at a price, and gentlemen, I propose we saddle ourselves with the duty to collect what is owed. Together, we will bring the people of India to their knees and remind them of their place in our world, restoring peace and stability for all. The Emperor of Scandinavia, Francois Bernadotte, in his address to the leaders of the coalition of Europe against Punjab. Hey everybody, it's PartyElite. Welcome back to our Sikh Empire run in Victoria 3. Things are looking a little tense in the Indian subcontinent as we have managed to puppet the entirety of the East India Company and all of their subsidiaries as well, but in doing so, we've also invited, let's call it a coalition of nations to rise up against us. Folks, just as a quick reminder, in case you've forgotten, Scandinavia, Austria, the Netherlands, and Holstein have teamed up to try and cut Punjab down to size. Something we most certainly cannot allow to pass, and so we have to fend them off. Now, overall, I wasn't too nervous about our situation. I felt as though we'd be able to hold steady and push back against any attempts they made to strike at the heart of our empire, but unfortunately, it seems they've made landfall. The very thing I said we would have to prevent was the first thing to happen as we were distracted in our war against the EIC. It seems as though Baroda and Kutch were struck, Baroda especially being our weak spot, as our vassal or our initial puppet there is weaker than us. They do not have the technological capabilities on the battlefield. And so yes, the Scandinavians have landed, and this front over here is about to see plenty of Austrians and additional Scandinavians join in to try and push deeper and deeper into our homeland and cause endless strife and struggle. But fear not, we will plug this gap. Like I said, this is Fortress India, and what happens when a breach appears at the walls of a fortress? You send in the troops, you hold the enemy back, and you patch that breach right up. So folks, that's what we're going to do as we continue to develop our glorious nation, and we will strike back at the enemy. We will have our vengeance. Do not forget that we are demanding war reparations from the Austrians and from the Scandinavians, and we are going to force the Netherlands to release the Dutch East Indies from under their thumb. Just like we separated the ties that bound Great Britain and the East India Company, so too shall we separate the Dutch East Indies from the Netherlands. So folks, with a thirst for justice in my eyes and a heart that is beating through my chest, let us begin. So in further assessing the situation over here, there are some adjustments I would very much like to make with regards to some orders we gave at the end of the previous session. For one, Dalip Singh is going to be sent back to South India HQ to rest and recuperate and make moves elsewhere, while from North India HQ and Persia and Himalayas HQs, we're going to see some movement of troops to push these guys back. Now, the first order of business is actually going to be to send the folks from Persia HQ, led by Ranjit Kunwar, to advance the front up over here, where it seems as though the enemy hasn't actually stationed any troops. We should be very easily able to push through Kutch and just close this front down before any troops arrive. At the same time, we're going to go ahead and get our friend Jassa Singh Dogra from the Himalayas HQ with his expert offensive planning capabilities and his stalwart defensive capabilities. We'll have him defending the front down over here, the Gujarat front as it's called, deep in Baroda, to hopefully pin these guys in place, soften them up a little bit, and then push through and eventually close this front as well. You know what, actually? Truth be told, if we take a quick look at the army that's here right now, we can see that their strength seems to be somewhat minimized. I mean, quite a few of these battalions are still at 1,000 strong, but we might just be able to push an advance over here and see some successes. Fair enough. Justice Singh Dogra, advance this front instead, and let's see if we can't close this down ASAP. It'll take him no time to get here, and so he should get to work immediately after this battle is done. This guaranteed defeat here, of course, led by Baroda. Not much we can say about that. And that should give us an initial advantage compared to the back foot that I felt like we were on to begin with. Meanwhile, down south over here, we're actually going to go ahead and invest in some additional naval bases. These guys need a handful of upgrades. We're going to start employing more and more officers and servicemen in the Navy. And my whole plan with puppeting the EIC and waiting for our infamy to drop, by the way, was to strengthen our nation as we waited for that to happen. I knew it was going to be a long time before we declared our next offensive war, but in that time I intend to do a lot of development across a lot of factors, including our military strength, and that includes, of course, our army as well as our navy. So it's all coming together just fine as long as we can thwart these initial advances, as I think we'll be able to. I think we'll be fine. I hope so. I sincerely hope so. Alright, it seems as though we've suffered a defeat down over here in Baroda, and that has pushed the front back. Seems as though for a split second we may have been able to find some empty spots, but alas, we were just a little too slow. And now we have Justice Singh Dogra over here trying to advance the front, trying to cut these guys off before all of these reinforcements arrive. There's about a month's time before the Austrian and Scandinavian reinforcements arrive, so hopefully we can outnumber the Scandinavians who are here right now on a per battle basis, of course, and hopefully we're actually able to overcome them and again push them back before any of these other invaders arrive. Meanwhile, up over here we have Ranjit Kunwar pushing forward as well, and he shouldn't have any trouble because there are no enemy generals or troops trying to hold the front. Meanwhile here, though, just to point out that Nils is trying to push back, so hopefully we get the advance off first, and it looks like it's working out for us, though my goodness, look at those numbers. Perhaps defending would have been the better call. Our offense is higher than their defense, but nothing's guaranteed, obviously. As you can see, a huge discrepancy in numbers. Again, they just have significantly more soldiers, 60 battalions against our 11. There isn't too much we can do about that discrepancy. However, with that said, let's go ahead and spend some time down over here, because you might be wondering, well, if all their soldiers are coming here to attack us, who's defending home? And my hope is nobody. Scandinavia, Austria, and the Dutch are spread very thin across a multitude of strategic regions. There are a few opportunities, I think, to strike at them and make sure we're hurting their war support more than they're hurting ours. We have to do a counteroffensive over here, because if we just wait to send them back and then hope that they decide to give up on the war, we're hardly going to see any successes. I doubt we'd be able to actually push any of our war goals, so we have to do something a little cheeky over here. Now, if we zoom on down to South India HQ, you'll see we have pretty much twice as many battalions as we have ships, or flotillas I should say, which means that if we try to kick off a naval invasion anywhere, we're actually going to suffer some huge penalties. In order to avoid that, we're going to have to recruit additional generals at the South India HQ in an effort to balance the distribution of troops between multiple generals. So let's go ahead and see if we have any good options over here. I suppose we have Diwan Dhillon, a reckless woodland combat expert. I mean, those aren't bad traits necessarily, though being reckless has some dangers that are, you know, assigned to it for sure, but not too concerned about that. Sure, let's go ahead and recruit him. He'll be picking up 23 battalions, and that should allow us to get Dalip Singh down over here to sub 20 as well, though I do believe the conscripts we're raising in South India are joining his forces, so he is going to end up with a pretty significantly high number still, but it does look like our buddy down over here, Diwan Dhillon, is free to mobilize and actually, yeah, be the leader of this counter-offensive force. So let's get Nihal Bhangi, our first ever admiral, kicking off a naval invasion all the way up over here in Iceland. I do believe this should be relatively unprotected. It looks as though we're not going to be intercepted by any enemy fleets. You'll see if we hover over more core Scandinavian territories, you can see how it says there is an interception that's bound to happen. The invasion fleet will be intercepted by such and such with so-and-so number of flotillas. We're going to avoid that by striking at Iceland and then perhaps Greenland as well. So to Iceland first. We will be heading there with Devon Dillon. Again, I think with his traits, he should be a decent attacker. I'm not sure what the territory is like in Iceland, but hopefully we'll be okay. We won't have to rely too much on his woodland combat expertise. This should be relatively safe. It'll take him about 50 days to get here, as you can see, 50 days to prepare forces. It'll take him some time to mobilize fully, and only then will he actually strike. But let's keep an eye on this, as we're also keeping an eye on all of this over here, and hopefully seeing some successes. I'm just a little nervous that if we take too long to push these guys back, more and more of their troops will arrive, and we'll be in a terrible position. At the same time, obviously, we have our own aggression that might pull some of their forces away, while up over here as well, we have additional aggression, of course, which I'm not too concerned about. This should go very smoothly. Now, our government is investing in some upgrades as far as the naval bases are concerned. You already saw that. And as soon as we clean up this mess, we're going to invest some more money from both the government and from the investment pool to do a variety of things. I have a lot of plans that I've been holding off on until we pulled off the big move on the EIC. And there were a lot of suggestions in the comments of the last couple of episodes as well that I've very much been looking forward to implementing and seeing exactly how they play out. Meanwhile, over here at the Gujarat front, are we seeing any luck? No, not at all. There's not a chance in hell that we're going to win this battle, and that's okay. That's okay. You gotta lose some to win some. You can't win them all. Some statement out there, you know, to pep up the troops over here. We'll be just fine. As in about a month's time, Devon Dillon, at the age of 34, is going to be leading a crucial invasion force to strike at the enemy. Well, it seems as though some of the enemy troops have arrived to try and hold back our advances, led by Ranjit Kunwar, which is a little unfortunate. But why don't we go ahead and get Ranjit Kunwar closing this front off before somebody else arrives up over there and we find ourselves outflanked or otherwise outmaneuvered. Meanwhile, just 20 or so more days left until Devon Dillon arrives. He is still mobilizing his troops as well. Hopefully that'll all line up nicely. Yes, excellent. And in a short amount of time, we'll see a good bit of work done. Meanwhile, over here, I think we're going to see some advances, and you'll see these guys are actually dancing back and forth. These 27 battalions that were previously over here are now up over here. So why don't we go ahead and bring the troops led by Kaur Mal down over here to just apply some additional pressure and further push these guys back. Again, they can only split into so many parts until all of their reinforcements arrive, and unfortunately, it seems as though all of the reinforcements have arrived, so they might be able to keep up with our own movements. Granted, anytime we're defending, I think we will still have the advantage, so not too concerned unless we find some of these battles, you know, so horribly stacked against us. Now, with the previous round of naval base upgrades completed, we're going to head right on back down to both Bombay and Madras alike to continue upgrading them. Again, we need a decent bit of naval power projection, not just to increase our prestige, but also to go toe-to-toe with the likes of Great Britain. I have a few plans if we actually manage to survive these attempts at cutting us down to size. I have a few plans with regards to cutting Great Britain down to size. Not in terms of game mechanics, obviously, because they haven't triggered their infamy to that extent, but in terms of their, you know, sheer power and how far they've spread their zones of influence. I want to make sure we cut some of those off, separate them from some of their colonies and some of their protectorates and things like that, and that might weaken Great Britain and make them less than a great power, allowing us to again then subjugate them. But to do any of that, we'll of course need a powerful naval force. So we want to make sure we're investing a little bit in that, and as this war comes to an end, there are a few other things, again, as I was saying, that I would very much like to invest in. Now, we have a couple of moves going down over here. It looks as though we are attacking over here. No issues whatsoever. That's good to see. Up over here, we might have a battle kicking off. Yes, we do indeed. And as the electric telegraph gets unlocked, apparently the first messages coming our way are with regards to this glorious victory that Ranjit Kunwar is going to win against Carl Axel Eliasson. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. It seems as though we outnumber them, so we should be okay, despite the difference in stats and the matching battalion count, so that's very exciting to see, and hopefully this will actually help us reduce war exhaustion from casualties, as it says on the tin can. But with that done, let's go ahead and pick our next technology. Folks, we're actually going to chase after mutual funds. This is going to make a huge difference across all of these industries that you're seeing listed over here. It'll allow us to get them publicly traded, which should help us just hurt the landowners ever so much, and in their stead put in capitalists who tend to be industrialists and even intelligentsia and other interest group types, and that should work out for us for the, other wars that we're fighting internally, as far as cutting the landowners down to size. A constant struggle in this part of the world. They're right back up to 20.3% clout. They have regained their powerful status, so we really have to work overtime to bring them back down and hopefully keep them down there. Again, this war is not just against the external forces. There's plenty of fighting happening in the subcontinent within our own people as well, of course. And in about a week's time, some of this fighting is going to spill over to Europe. Very excited to see how that plays out. It's going to be crucial that we see some successes there, as up over here, it looks like we're seeing some very unfortunate developments. Not able to hold off against the Scandinavians. Again, troops led by Baroda, not our own soldiers or warriors, so that's not looking too good. But let's turn our attention to Iceland, as in one day's time, our 23 battalions led by Dewan Dillon will arrive and immediately open up a front and start applying some pressure. Looks as though my gamble has paid off over here. They don't seem to have any defenders, and if all of their forces are all the way down in the Indian subcontinent, it's going to take them a lot of time to return here and even try to push us back. So this is very promising. Very much looking forward to how that develops. While down south over here, you know what we should do? We should probably change how things are playing out by... Oh, hang on a second. Did we see a glorious victory over here and push the fronts back so far? That is absolutely huge. Let's go ahead and get Kormal moving to the south over here, then closing this coastline off, as up over here we have 183 battalions led by the Austrians facing off against Jassa Singh Dogra, leading 20 battalions of his own, and I suppose 104 from North India HQ. Meanwhile, up over here, what do we have? This battle is still raging. This is a guaranteed victory, I would say, at this point in time. Very difficult to envision us losing this battle, so that's promising. But at the same time, as again some of the naval bases have been completed, let's head on in and queue up a few more. Again, they take so little time to actually get built. We should go ahead and queue up a handful for each so that we can focus elsewhere as all this work continues to get done, right? So let's go ahead and do that, and we should be good. It'll take a fair bit of money, but the war is looking alright, so I don't think I'm too concerned about our current debt. Now, actually, let's take a look at the state of the war. If we take a look at the Make Peace screen over here, we can see that war support is definitely dwindling across the board. The Scandinavians are at plus 85, the Dutch are at plus 83, and the Austrians are only at plus 78. If we can slowly get them to give up on the fighting, then, like one by one, I mean, we'll definitely have the upper hand over here, and at that point in time, it might just be a matter of waiting. The Austrians are not going to see their war support drop below 0. The Dutch, I believe, are in a similar position, whereas the Scandinavians, because we now have territory in Iceland, are actually going to see their war support drop below 0. Fair enough. So what that means is we have to find some Austrian holding somewhere that we can strike at after our task here is done. Maybe we do hit Greenland as well, just to cause a further, reduction in war support and a little bit faster through occupation. But I don't want to put too much stock in that. It looks like they are losing war support faster than we're losing war support, so that's working out for us either way. Let's just make sure we're using all of these soldiers as best as we can, in as many spots as we can, as quickly as we can. As down over here, yeah, I think we're seeing some good successes in throwing the enemy back. If we can re-secure our hold of this region, I'll feel a lot more comfortable about this war. This looks pretty good. We seem to be the defenders, 51 of our battalions against 28 Austrian battalions, and it looks as though we definitely have the upper hand. Our stats are higher, our numbers are superior as well, and I do believe we have the technological advantage too. So this should go smoothly, and that should totally close off the Baroda front over here, or I should say the Gujarat front, though I think Kutch is also technically a part of Gujarat, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Nonetheless, in just a few short minutes, days, I suppose, in game time, this front will be closed regardless of how we want to term it, what we want to call it, by Kutch, by Baroda, by Gujarat as a whole. It'll all be closed down, and the fortress will once more be made impenetrable. This is looking great. Oh my goodness, I feel fantastic. Okay, this is This is amazing. I don't even want to look here anymore because it seems as though it's a job well done, as we now have protectionism as well. I love it. I couldn't have asked for that to come at a better time. Joy upon joy over here. We should see our tariffs just absolutely blow through the roof over here. We're still at 68.4k because it'll take some time for these new tariffs to actually apply, but I'm very curious to see how this graph looks in just a couple of days' time. Now, the rural folk and trade unions are very pleased with this, it looks like. However, the landowners and the industrialists, not so much. Though, I do also want to point out that the landowners are no longer powerful. Something happened that dropped their clout rather significantly, very quickly, by about 3%, it feels, overnight almost. So, that's interesting. Not sure what did the trick there, but hey, I'll definitely take it, because again, now their impact of noble privileges is lessened, though it is still active. We'll see what we can do about that. Though, with protectionism in place, we should take a look at what policy we want to push next. I've received some excellent suggestions from the comments, and it's along the lines of what I was thinking already, so I'm very excited to see that we're all sort of aligned over here. I love the... folks, I don't know how to put this. I love reading through comments. I get so excited by your excitement. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and opinions and your inclinations as well. It really does bring me a lot of joy. So I just want to say thank you really quickly as we dove into this conversation. And I just want to say as well, again, if you've been enjoying this series, those likes and comments that you leave down below really let me know that I should keep going, that people are watching and enjoying, and I should keep the series alive. And clearly, folks want to see more Vicky 3 on the channel as well. So that's very exciting for me, because I've been having a blast with this game and I have plans. Boy, oh boy, do I have plans. Anyway, let's focus on these plans over here, which are regarding our economic system. I was very pleased to get agrarianism when we got agrarianism. We had a lot of support for it, and it made a huge difference to our development in those early days. You know, all the ranches, all the plantations, all the infrastructure, it's been fantastic. However, if you take a look at the tooltip over here, you can see that the vast majority of the contribution over here is especially boosted from the aristocrats. And of course, as we try to diminish the strength of the landowners, we are also, in essence, diminishing the presence of aristocrats in our nation. So we have to replace agrarianism to ensure the investment pool doesn't disappear on us. Now, granted, if we chase after something like the command economy, we're very much accepting that there is not going to be an investment pool anymore. And while that is something we might be able to consider down the line, maybe it's something we want to think about, for the time being, that's not even a conversation. We don't even have the technology. We also just can't throw away that investment pool in the state that we're in right now, where we're still in that phase of development, aggressive development, but we also have to push past our agrarianism. So I think we should chase after interventionism. Now, laissez-faire is an option as well, but as you can see, that only takes contributions from capitalists, and then the investment pool can only be used for things like manufacturing, infrastructure, fisheries, forestry, plantations, specifically rubber plantations, mines. So it's not all of those, opium plantations, coffee plantations, and all those things that we've gotten so used to investing in with the investment pool. Interventionism, however, allows us to invest across the board while taking less money from aristocrats and more from capitalists. So it's a beautiful balance between our current status and all of the people who have power and wealth and will have power and wealth, especially after mutual funds get unlocked. Of course, that'll take some time to get because we still have, 4 years left before mutual funds come through. But truth be told, we might have 4 years left until interventionism comes through as well, because there isn't too much support for it. It's just the industrialists and the trade unions who are willing to push for it, and that gives us just 13.4% chance of seeing that flip happen per cycle. We, though, have to first get these two into our government, and hopefully they're not too upset at us, and hopefully that doesn't hurt our legitimacy by too much either. So let's reform the government, bring in the, you know what, they are currently in a political movement that's plotting a revolution, so they might not be willing to join, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they're not going to join because they're part of an insurrection. Very well, industrialists be gone, the trade unions take their stead. Now again, that does hurt our legitimacy a lot. Who do we boot? The rural folk getting booted will increase radicalization significantly. My goodness, a small drop to loyalists, but a huge increase to radicalization. Fair enough. You know what? I'll take the hit to legitimacy. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to confirm this. We're going to take a look at our laws. We're going to go ahead and push for interventionism with just a 5% chance of success every, 180 days or so. 1911 is when we're going to see the next checkpoint. That's obviously far too long, and that's because, of course, of our legitimacy, which cannot be at 2%. So let's head on over to our budget, and let's go ahead and increase, or rather decrease, the tax rate significantly to improve legitimacy. I don't think we can go that far down, but maybe we can go ahead over to here, and while that does hurt our economy, it means the next checkpoint over here is actually going to be in 1890. A much more palatable number. Very well, let's stick with that. Yes, again, hurts our economy, but folks, if we manage to succeed in this war, if we manage to secure war reparations from Scandinavia and Austria, money will be the least of our concerns. Much like this front over here, I have no reason to worry about the circumstances over here. And in fact, hang on a second, if we've got so much success flowing up there, and we've got these guys being pushed back over here, who do we have down here? We have 30 battalions and 26 flotillas, though only 14 are currently being led, I suppose. So let's go ahead and promote Naval for having led the first successful naval invasion of the Punjabi Empire, and that should give him access to the entirety of our navy so far. Beautiful stuff. And though we will take, I think, a bit of a penalty if we try a naval invasion with 30 battalions and only 26 flotillas, I think it's well worth a shot over here if we try to lead Naval to Greenland over here, with Duleep Singh upon his ships. I do believe Diwan Dillon is the one who is currently pushing in Iceland. I want to make sure I don't get the wrong guy over here. So yes, Duleep Singh up over here, and that should give us success on two fronts that we previously would never have had access to. I do believe Greenland is likely to be undefended. I mean, come on, if they left Iceland undefended, then I'm fairly confident about the situation up over here, and then we'll seek out an Austrian opportunity to bring them down to their knees too. Again, not too concerned about the financial situation. Yes, that's a scary number. We're 6.24 million in debt. Interest is climbing, but like I said, if we manage to secure these war reparations, we will be perfectly fine. And that is indeed, yes, a can-do attitude. What's going on over here in Punjab? Soldiers are complaining that they have no way to open their canned food. My goodness, can-do attitude. Who wrote these? Who wrote these? I would like to personally shake their hand. I'm not joking. I love each and every one of these. They're so good. Sure, the food's a bit better, but what's the point if we can't get at it, eh? Some lads use rocks, others knives. The only reliable thing is how bloody annoying it is to eat. Man, these soldiers have moved just a little too close to Canada. I see some of those A's dropping already. All right, we could spend some money to develop a way, or we just let them figure it out. It'll reduce their approval rating. I love the thought of, like, it being so frustrating to get into your rations that you become displeased with the government en masse. Now, the armed forces right now are decently happy, but we want to be careful not to upset them too much, right? Because at that point in time, we see material waste, which is a huge hit to our economy. I would much rather spend some money to develop a way, eating another 25K of cost for 5 years, which, you know what? If I'm so confident that we're going to win this war and get all those war reparations, then that money's nothing. So let's spend some money to develop a way and make sure that our army is operating at full capacity at all times, not distracted by whether they can or cannot eat their next meal. Unfortunately, it seems as though there's another attempt at making landfall over here. The Austrians have arrived with 3 battalions versus our 2, and though we do have better stats than them, it looks as though they must outnumber us, and that's why they're going to see success over here. That's not good. So they're going to reopen the front over here, whereas down over here we are... Oh, no, okay. Thank you, game. I was so sure we were seeing success over here, so that scared me, but I think it was just refreshing and updating. Yeah. This is a guaranteed victory, so we'll close this front, but this one unfortunately will open as standard of living has increased in Balochistan. That's nice to see. Radicalism has been kept in check, and in fact, it is still dropping in the midst of this fighting, and loyalists are beginning to drop. I assume the war is hurting access to quite a few different types of goods, and so they're starting to get a bit more upset, and standard of living has started dropping. Now, we could take a look at alternative angles of acquiring some of the goods that our people need. A lot of our trade routes, I'm sure, have become inactive because we were relying on the Austrians and the French for a couple of things. So luxury furniture in particular has become a bit of a problem. Not for too long, though, as we go ahead and investigate alternative import routes and hopefully find... Damn it. I was hoping to will into existence an option over here, but it seems no one is willing to sell us their luxury furniture, or at least we can't acquire any just due to costs alone. We have plenty of convoys available, but nowhere for them to go. Very well, why don't we go ahead then and invest in some of the luxury furniture manufacturing at home. Now, granted, down the line, we're going to see the surplus return when the war ends and, all these imports resume. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and invest a little bit in this, and let's also invest in tooling workshops when the opportunity presents itself. I think we've upgraded our naval bases enough for this war. Don't worry, we'll do plenty more in due time, but for the time being, we can change our focus to some of the goods that our people need. Meanwhile, up over here, it seems as though Iceland has been completely taken. This is impassable terrain, so that's not going to need any work. And with Iceland secured, we should now move towards, yes, Greenland, and that'll be another 30 days or so. Very well. After that naval invasion is pulled off, I do have an idea with regards to where I will strike at the Austrians, and hopefully they'll be too distracted down over here to actually try and fend us off. This is looking like, yes, a guaranteed victory, whereas up over here, this is looking like a guaranteed defeat, unfortunately. But hey, we'll throw them back, right? We've done it before, we'll do it again. I'm less concerned now, given how things have gone recently. We are trying, but it's just not going to be enough. Fair enough, fair enough. Down over here, though, again, guaranteed victory in just a couple days' time. And with this front closed, all of these troops will be available to help fight off against the Austrian advance in Kutch. All right, psychiatry's been unlocked, which should reduce the amount of bureaucracy spend we're seeing from our population, but it's still looking pretty rough over here. Nonetheless, I'm not too concerned because some of the plans I have for development for this session will actually take care of this and all the tax waste we're seeing. So this doesn't bother me too much right now. But I am glad to have this little boost over here. We'll see what starts to spread next. And it looks as though we've actually unlocked the steel railway cars at the same time as well. Now, steel passenger carriages will eat up some more steel, though it will provide some more transportation as well, which is good to see. It will, though, also decrease some employment and hurt, again, infrastructure production, right? So we'll consider the option, though I'm not in a rush to get that going, so I guess we'll keep an eye out for 2 new technologies starting to spread our way, as our influence is going to start to spread up over here in Greenland, as in just 3 days' time, we should see Dalip Singh arrive and hopefully start to make some moves without too much trouble. And there he is, down south over here, and is that it? Yeah, he's standing by at South India HQ now. Okay. All right. What do we got over here? They are how much occupied? 0.1%. Is that really all that did? No, it did something a lot bigger. It made sure that their war support can actually go down below 0, and we do really need that if we want to try and force them to capitulate. If we do look at the make peace screen, though, it looks as though they're not still too excited to end this war. Though our war support is higher than all of theirs, so things are still looking quite promising. Though with this naval invasion done, let's go ahead and strike at Austria. Now, we're not going to hit them in Europe, because that would be a fool's endeavor. They are definitely defending Europe like nothing else, much like we're defending India, I suppose. But they do have, I think, a bit of a weak spot down over here, where they decided, I think, to take a treaty port, if I'm not mistaken, at Jaffa. This is, in fact, yes, a treaty port. So we can hope that it's not very well defended, because there are no barracks or conscription centers or anything of the sort. And as long as there's no flotillas patrolling the area, we should be able to bring Nehal Bhangi over here with a naval invasion, striking at Jaffa with who in charge? Let's give Dewan Dillon the opportunity over here to prove himself once more, and that should be of a huge help if we again take a look at the make peace screen and just take a look at the war support for Austria. You'll see that their war support cannot be brought below 0 because we don't have any territory, and so we can't hit them with the Austrian war reparations. So let's just keep an eye out for that, as we also keep an eye out for our progress over here. It'll be about 50 days time, so about 2 months to go, give or take a few days. Meanwhile, up over here, a new front has opened. Let's not waste any time. Let's try and close it down ASAP. So let's get Ranjit Kunwar over here advancing this front. No troops have actually arrived up over there, as down over here, this front has actually stayed open. That is a huge surprise, though at this new battle, we still outnumber the enemy, and we're definitely outperforming the enemy despite their higher stats over here. My goodness, you're a much higher ranking general as well, and you're about to get your... Oh my goodness, this is... Alright, let's not get too cocky. Let's not get too cocky, because things could all of a sudden flip on us and we could be in a lot of trouble. So let's let this play out and see exactly what happens. As up over here, it looks as though a response force is being sent, but from way too far away. It'll take them about 2 months to get here, and in that amount of time, I'm sure we're going to close this front down and again, yes, re-secure the fortress, right? A couple of holes here and there, you know, like with any good big structure, you got to keep patching things up, right? It's like renovations. You got to do some upgrades every once in a while. So that's one battle won immediately. Still 2 months to go before Buddy's able to strike, and I'm pretty sure that Ranjit Kunwar is going to finish the task over here in quick time. Down over here, meanwhile, yes, we're still seeing successes, whereas Diwan Dylan, in about a month's time, again, give or take a week, will be making landfall at Jaffa. Meanwhile, we have the rotary valve engine beginning to spread our way. That should allow us to use new techniques across quite a few industries. However, we, as you can see, will lose employees and start consuming more tools and coal. So as much as that could help under certain circumstances, under our circumstances, these will probably have to wait, though this does lead to the combustion engine, which is a very helpful thing to have for the future. And separately, we also have quinine spreading. I believe that's how you pronounce this. Quinine is going to help us in allowing us to actually colonize more parts of the world. It also unlocks some decisions that we might want to make at some point in time. I don't think we're actually going to engage in much there, but again, we don't really have much control over what spreads and what doesn't, so I'll take what I get and celebrate either way. On the topic of celebration, yeah, we have managed to close this new front up over here, and down over here we continue to see success, so not too concerned yet, as rubber continues to be discovered in various parts of the world. Again, hopefully we get access to rubber sooner rather than later. We know there's some available down over here, so the eventual annexation of the East India Company will give us access to rubber, but we also need to concern ourselves with oil, another very important late-game resource. Nonetheless, that's not the focus of this session right now. There'll be plenty of time to discuss that when we have the bandwidth to take care of that. Now, it is important to note that as this war continues, we are going to see a reduction in our infamy. Yes, it's going to take a very long time for us to stop being a pariah, but again, it's all going according to plan, right? We're going to spend that time to develop our nation. We're going to improve our tax collection capabilities, our military capabilities. It's all perfectly okay, and that's not me lying to myself to make myself feel better. I'm feeling very good about our current circumstances. Meanwhile, in just under 2 weeks' time, we're going to see Diwan Dylan over here arrive at Jaffa, and hopefully he's going to see a swift victory, and we can see a reduction in the Austrian war support just as swiftly. So here he comes, led by Nahal Bhangi's ships. He's going to arrive and win, and hopefully there are plenty of cakes to celebrate at Jaffa. Folks, my goodness, I cannot believe it. The Austrians left their treaty port completely open with no troops stationed at the Arabia HQ. That means, if we take a look at the make peace screen over here, the Austrian war support can now fall below 0. So it's just a matter of keeping this war alive, as they are losing faith at about 2.32 per week, which is significantly faster than our negative 0.56 per week. This is huge. This is huge, and this is also huge. Now, here's a big struggle. I had a feeling I might have shot myself in the foot with regarding liberating the Dutch East Indies. If I try to pull off a naval invasion down at the Dutch East Indies, you will see that we actually cannot, because we're not at war with the Dutch East Indies. We are trying to force their overlords to liberate them without actually dragging them into the fighting. It's a bit strange to me. You'd expect the occupation of the Dutch East Indies to be a method with which to force the Dutch to let them go, but such is not the way it seems. So it also looks like we have an option to strike these guys. Oh, this is our ongoing war with Portugal, so that's not important. We'll deal with that later, because I do think striking at the Dutch will be quite a challenge. I don't think they're currently... Ooh, hang on a second. Oh, no, that's the French and the North German Federation. I was really hoping that perhaps the Dutch were involved. Ooh, the Dutch are involved in another war. Are they actually doing anything about it, though? Huh. Well, this is interesting. We might have an opportunity to strike at the Netherlands. We'll see. Now's not the time. We'll see how this war actually progresses. It looks like it has only just freshly begun. And as we see some of their lines shift, we might decide to dive in there as well to make a push to liberate the Dutch East Indies. But for the time being, let's go ahead and push these guys off of our beautiful subcontinent and hopefully speed our way to victory against at least 2 of the nations that are in this coalition against us. Well, it looks like we're seeing some of our convoys being sunk once again, so that's going to cause some trouble. I think there was a bit of a gap where that wasn't happening anymore, which is why our loyalist count has recovered a little bit, and it looks like our radical count continues to drop, so that's all well and good. But let's make sure that our convoys are protected, so let's get Naval over here now, patrolling coasts, no, escorting convoys to where I suppose France makes the most sense still, if they are still an option. Well, there they are, sure, let's do that. It seemed to be working previously, so hopefully we can keep that up and keep our trade routes secure and keep our people happy as well, as I myself am about to be tremendously pleased with this victory over here. It's just a matter of time now before these guys are pushed back. I cannot believe we've actually managed to turn this around. I was so sure with them having made landfall, we were done, and we'd be completely cut down to size, brought right back to the beginning of this entire campaign. This is huge. There is one more battle to be fought over here. Both sides are trying to advance. The Austrians are trying to further strengthen their hold on this territory. 59 of their battalions against 41 of ours, but what do the numbers actually look like on the battlefield? Our stats are much better than theirs. Our numbers are so evenly matched. Oh, this is a big one, folks. We have to win this one, and we are neck and neck. Just barely have the edge over here, whereas at the beginning they had the edge, so we've turned things around again. I think that's that technological superiority kicking in, and if we take a look at these battle conditions, they are suffering from poor visibility, while our surprise maneuver has definitely taken them by surprise, causing that extra morale damage and just getting them to give up on the fighting and increasing this gap more and more as we go along. This is looking very good, but you know what isn't looking too good, folks? The fact that our debt is about 1/3 topped off. I don't like that. I don't like that. And at the same time, our tariffs are suffering despite the initial spike we saw. We're seeing a bit of a hit over here, I think primarily because of the loss of convoys and all that good stuff. So why don't we go ahead and make some adjustments over here, start taxing the people a little bit more, because we were able to manage these numbers for a little while there. And our legitimacy, yes, will not get that boost, but I think there are more important matters on hand for the time being. We could also reduce military wages ever so slightly. We might not need that training rate anymore after this battle here is done. We'll hold off on that for the time being, but yes, a couple of things to consider, obviously, as this battle looks like a guaranteed victory at this point in time. This gap, yes, continues to grow more and more. Our recovery rates, I think, are better than theirs, and our just overall damage output is looking fantastic. Our kill rate is actually a bit lower than theirs, and actually, now that I look at it, our recovery rate's a bit lower too. But I just think it's a matter of our significantly higher defense compared to their offense, and we're just doing so much better than them. And look at that, they're withering away. The battalions are being absolutely crushed. This will be a glorious victory, and that, I think, should be the end of this front, hopefully, and they'll have to try and make landfall once more with a new naval invasion. Ideally, it won't come to that, but let's go ahead and see what happens over here as some of the construction finally gets completed at all of these furniture manufactories. That battle lasted 61 days, a glorious victory, and oh, this fighting just never ends, does it? Nonetheless, we are winning, so that's fine by me. And yes, as all this construction gets completed, you can see our budget is looking a lot better right now, but let's go ahead and make sure we use some of that investment pool money, right? Let's go ahead and put some of that money into some railways. I think we have infrastructure issues starting to pop up here and there, so up in Punjab, we'll go ahead and upgrade the railway, and down over here, how about in North Bengal or perhaps South Bengal, we're looking okay, and we are looking okay still. Very well, very well. So Punjab continues to get our focus as far as railway upgrades are concerned, and we'll just allow the investment pool to eat some costs, and then later on down the line, I think we'll switch gears once more to investing with our government's money and perhaps building up some of the motor industries, because it looks like that's definitely causing some issues over here. So we'll get on that shortly, but for the time being, let's stay focused on some investment pool money being used. Meanwhile, we have a new revolution kicking off over here, where it's just the landowners involved in an attempt to preserve agrarianism. What that means is, if we take a look at our government, we'll now be able to reform it once more to actually bring the industrialists in as well, completely demolishing any iota of legitimacy we were hoping to hold on to. Who can we remove here? Is it time to accept some radicals? Wow, that's not going to do anything. What if we get rid of the intelligentsia? As much as we want to empower them, nothing doing. Rural folk as well. industrialists as well. That'll help, but then we only have the trade unions. All right, industrialists and trade unions will take a hit to radicals and loyalists. We actually need to make some moves with regards to how our investment pool can be used, right? So I'll take this hit. We'll turn these numbers down in a short amount of time, hopefully. But I do need some of that legitimacy, because if we don't make these changes, we're never going to be able to move the needle, right? Push the needle, as it were. Now, 18th of August, 1888 is when we're going to try and push interventionism. We'll see if we can pull it off with just the 17% chance of success, and hopefully I don't hate myself too much for the additional radicals that we just invited. Obviously, it's a little unfortunate, but hey, you know what? Sometimes you gotta switch things up at the government. So it looks like a white peace is possible with Austria and Scandinavia, but I imagine the moment we add any war reparations into the mix, their opinion suddenly changes. We'll give it some time. War support in Austria has hit -0, and that should continue to drop, as a completely separate war sees the complete capitulation of Portugal, which means we now have their treaty port of Goa, and we also have the war reparations coming in from Portugal. What does that look like over here at our diplomatic pacts? We see just the 2K. Are you for real? All that fighting for just this? Now, granted, of course, we gained Goa as well, and we now have secured Bombay in its entirety, but I was really hoping for some more money coming in from there. It's okay, not the end of the world, but certainly not what I was hoping for, truth be told. We're fine. I'm not too concerned about that, especially considering what we have coming our way. Seems as though success is pretty much inevitable at this point in time. I mean, Scandinavian war support over here is dropping at a relatively decent rate, and again, it can go below 0. I don't think they've made any moves to try and get any of these occupied territories back, which is good. And meanwhile, over here, can we make a move? Or should we just leave things as they are? It looks like only the French are involved in the actual fighting, so I don't think we can hit the Dutch. I mean, we could try it. You know, what else are we doing? Sitting idly by? No, we're escorting convoys, which is keeping people happy. So maybe it's not worth it just quite yet. We'll wait until some of their allies give up on the fighting, and then we'll see what we can do there. Now, I am regretting mobilizing so many of our conscripts, because that's part of what's hurting us so much in terms of costs. And right now, of course, you know, eventually we're going to see this investment pool money disappear, and then the construction is going to hurt us too. At about 50% in debt right now, 50% of our credit limit. So again, yeah, getting maybe a little nervous, but if we can just win this war quickly, I'm sure things will be okay. I'm sure Austria makes bank, and I'm very much looking forward to taking some of that bank away. Now, over here, what do we actually have? These guys are pushing rather aggressively. They'll have 56 battalions from Madras, 6 from North and 6 from South Bengal, and another 11 from Mysore. Those are not insignificant numbers, and at +10 a week, this revolution could actually cause us some trouble. What can we do to reduce that acceleration? Not much, other than actually make the landowners happy, and they're a little too far gone for that. Or not make them happy, but at least not keep them angry. And I'm just not sure if there are any changes I can make that would do that in quick time. So we might just have to fend off this revolution in the midst of the fighting against these foreign invaders. But that's okay. That's okay, because you know what? If they do kick off this revolution, what does it do? It brings their clout right down to 0, as it seems Delhi has gotten involved as well. This revolution is growing larger and larger by the minute. Not a fan of this. Again, it's us pushing interventionism. I think that's finally pushing them over the edge, though now that you look at it, it looks like the revolution progression speed has hit -0, whatever the negative there means. It's hit 0, which means maybe they'll hold off, maybe they won't get any more upset, because they've hit their very high radicalism limit of 67. We'll see how this plays out. This is very exciting. Too bad about the Netherlands over here. Just not sure how we can strike at this without taking a risk with regards to our shipping lanes. That's why I'm waiting for some of these other war supports to drop down to -100 or whatever they'll need to hit for us to actually push these guys through. And then we'll consider striking at the Netherlands. Hopefully there'll be an opportunity there, as the revolution over here seems to now be at +0. Again, whatever that means. Hopefully it stays stagnant and we don't have to deal with infighting at the same as these foreign invasions. This is unfortunate timing. It seems as though the war in Europe has come to an end. Hanover has been liberated. Very well. But it does mean that the opportunity to strike at the Netherlands is perhaps gone, or at least not where it once was. We'll see how it plays out, as it seems as though there's a front in Gujarat forming, as yeah, there's a naval invasion going down over here. What's happening? How is this left alone for so long? Let's go ahead and send Mall to advance this front and try and close this nonsense down. It'll take about 2 months' time before these Austrian generals arrive over here, and before they make it, we should hopefully see this get shut down. We are advancing. Yes, it'll take a bit of time for that bar to fill up, but it shouldn't take too long for us to get the job done over here. But at the same time, we're seeing some great success as far as war support is concerned. There's the victory over here, closing that once more, and yep, Fortress India remains secure. Seems as though someone is raising concerns in Punjab. The rural folk have expressed their concerns about government decisions clearly favoring the interests of the industrialists. Choosing is always hard, not because the decision is difficult to make, but because the consequences can be a bit inconvenient. Rumors are spreading like smoke from a factory, staining the clear air of Punjab with a dense and vicious poison. This needs to be addressed, which will make the rural folk a bit happier, but it will further upset the industrialists, or they need to accept that we cannot always please everyone, making the rural folk a bit upset for the next 5 years, and also reducing their political strength. Now, the rural folk are already unhappy, which is unfortunate, but it is the way of things, whereas the industrialists are currently loyal, and that's getting us job creators over here, increasing the capitalist investment pool contribution, which is, entirely useless to us, I suppose. I just don't know if I want to hurt their approval rating just to make the rural folk ever so slightly happier. I mean, it will get them still stuck with their old ways, reducing technology spread. It doesn't do too much to us. I would perhaps like to see their strength weakened as well. Again, they're a powerful interest group right now because of their clout, and perhaps the reduced political strength is all we need to keep them in check. So the rural folk need to accept that we cannot always please everyone. It is the time for progress, and if it's the industrialists that will bring us that progress, then so be it. The rural folk have had their time, and they will have their time again in the future as well, of course. We're not just abandoning them. Again, we are, at its core, an agrarian economy. We rely too much on all of our fields of plenty to keep things alive and running smoothly, as I like to say. It's just that, for the time being, we maybe have to consider interventionism as a ways to progress in other industries towards modernity, right? Sadly, though, that radical count seems to be rising and rising, I think primarily because of, yes, the change of government, but that was a one-time thing. Apart from that, I think we're largely seeing it as a result of these political movements. We do have two active right now, one to preserve agrarianism and one to enact cultural exclusion, which is actually what the rural folk were all about. So that's easy enough for us to shut down. We don't want that at all. Though, yes, the political movements seem to be causing a lot of trouble, and decreases in standard of living are also causing some issues over here, which is unfortunate. Though, I don't think there's too much we can do about that until the war is actually done, which hopefully now isn't too far away, as again, we're making some decent progress as far as war support's concerned. You know what's interesting over here is the Netherlands is getting closer and closer to accepting peace as time goes on. Their, I think, gold reserves are dipping lower and lower, and their turmoil, I think, might be getting higher and higher, which is slowly shifting them closer towards peace acceptance. It's taking a lot of time. It's not the same as us actually occupying their territory or anything like that, but I did see the number shift. I don't want to hope too much on this front, but I will hold on to some hope, especially because if we manage to get their allies out of this war, that war goals pressed on allies will not be -20. It'll still be there, but at a lesser number, which is very exciting. Meanwhile, you can see the Scandinavians are very close to accepting this peace deal, and the Austrians aren't too far behind them either. It's just a matter of time, and I'm sure we'll see some good successes over here as we turn our attention once more to the budget to reduce military wages ever so slightly, and to, I think, increase taxation levels as well, just to bring me some more solace with regards to our ever-increasing debt, as the capitulation of Austria changes everything. My goodness, we didn't even need to get them to -100. They realized the war was lost, and there you have it. So, we are now making how much money off of Austria? 94.4k. That's no joke. Wow. All right, hold on a second. Let's go ahead and bring the taxation level right back down to here, or perhaps even here. we're still making so much money. We are not going to change military wages. I don't think we need to. But we can keep taxation levels here, sure, yeah, because that way we can maybe reduce radicalization and increase standard of living. Let's try it out and see how we feel and make adjustments if need be. But with that money, we shouldn't just sit idly by. Let's make sure we spend our money to make more money. If we take a look at Punjab and take a glance at its information tab over here, you will see that taxation currently sits at plus 15.5k. That number is, of course, impacted by the lacking tax collection due to the lacking taxation capacity, and the one way we can make a push there is by investing in government administration buildings. So let's go ahead and stack up 4 levels over here, take that same amount of negativity, but it'll be okay because with these guys getting done in about 15 weeks time, they're going to start generating more wealth, and if we can keep that feedback loop, so to speak, alive, we'll be making so much money after this war is done, using the money that we're getting from these war reparations. So basically, we're using the money that our would-be eliminators are now paying us because they overstep their bounds. We're using that money to secure our nation's entire future. Now, convoys have started sinking again, which is a little unfortunate to see. I do believe we are still escorting convoys, but nothing seems to be coming from it, which is a little unfortunate. We'll keep an eye on it, though I also want to keep an eye on this peace situation. It looks like these guys are ready to accept Scandinavian war reparations, but I'm not able to propose the peace deal. What's going on over there? What if I do that? No, that dance. Oh, right, of course, because the Netherlands isn't interested. You can see, though, war goals pressed on allies has reduced to now -10. I wonder if when Scandinavia gives up on this war, if that'll go down to 0, and then we'll have a very small gap to close with regards to their willingness to accept the liberation of the Dutch East Indies. Well, that's unfortunate. The Russians have begun embargoing us. I do believe we have quite a few trade routes with them, so that's likely going to hurt quite a few of our people, actually. Not a fan of that, but we'll see... We'll see where that goes. Hopefully it's short-lived. And you can see that embargo has actually hurt our tariffs over here. Took quite a dip in our earnings. They're not a fan of that. We should maybe take a look at import-export opportunities to make sure this number stays up. But I'm just not sure what I'm willing to send out of our market because everything seems to be decently priced right now. I suppose sugar is an option as our fertilizer, so very well. Sugar, where can we export you to? And do we need convoys? We do indeed. Over to Austria, I suppose. That's a fair bit of money to be made and hopefully some decent tariffs to collect as well. Very well. And let's go ahead and get fertilizer exported where? To the Austrian market as well. That is a lot of money and a lot of convoys too. Sure, let's go for it. And why don't we go ahead and send some off to the Qing market as well to make whatever money we can make over there. And let's make sure that it doesn't get too expensive for our own buildings and people, right? You can see across the board there are some costs that are starting to escalate. And don't forget, the market now includes the entirety of the subcontinent. So we are also trying to meet the needs of all the other industries and people across all of these puppets of ours and previously the East India Company, who are now our puppets again. So the demands have gone up and we haven't really been able to keep up with supply, production, and imports. I'm sure that'll all be fixed up when this war comes to an end, though, so I'm not too nervous just quite yet. Meanwhile, as these government administration buildings in Punjab are almost done being built, I just want to highlight once more at Punjab, the taxation is plus 15.1k. Of course, that number fluctuates a little bit here and there, but it's about 15k, right? So let's see how much of a difference it makes as those government admin buildings get fully staffed and as we start seeing the taxation capacity shift a little bit over here. Right, up to 20.4k. That's not a small difference, right? Multiply that by however much it'll take for us to actually get rid of the penalty over here, and we're looking at a lot of money that's been left on the table for a very long time. But that's exactly why we're taking care of those matters right now by upgrading the government admin buildings over here and, of course, in North Bengal as well, where, again, a lot of money has been left on the table because the taxation is so low as a result of this huge penalty to tax collection. So, yeah, let's go ahead and improve these buildings and see exactly what we can get out of them. Again, it is hurting our economy, but spending money to make money, right? That's the name of the game every once in a while, as over here we have inefficient agriculture. The industrialists have started complaining about the existence of subsistence farms in Pashtunistan, stating that their undeniable inefficiency should be immediately addressed. The fertile soil of our people suffers, relegated to tired and callous hands, too exhausted from manual labor to perform at a decent level, too poor to be able to use more advanced tools that would make them more profitable. This industry is just a useless investment. We could follow their advice, increasing the migration attraction in Pashtunistan, but also making the upper strata pops in Pashtunistan a bit more radical. I assume that suggests aristocrats not liking this criticism, or we could merely say these things serve our purposes, upsetting the industrialists, but keeping them loyal. For so long, subsistence farming has been a crucial part of our nation. Let's go ahead and keep them alive for the time being, though we'll consider adjustments in the future, of course, to appease the industrialists. Hopefully, for the time being, interventionism makes them happy enough, but they can stand by on this front at least. Meanwhile, it looks as though the situation in the Netherlands is worsening. Their willingness to accept this peace is slowly approaching that zero that we needed to. If they decide to prolong this war, it's not the end of the world for us. Yes, it hurts a little bit because of all the military goods and stuff that are currently being consumed and the added expense of all that, but I'm sure the joy of liberating the Dutch East Indies is well worth the price. Now, it is funny because last session I was wondering if I'd shot myself in the foot by adding that war goal, and it very much seems as though I have. Now, to be fair, if I didn't actually want to push for it, I could easily just ignore it and capitulate after Scandinavia has been, forced out of this war, because they're the only ones with the war goal to cut us down to size, right? So that is an option. However, it would be the icing on the cake if we're able to pull this off. And look, how can I resist that, right? And there it is, the capitulation of Scandinavia, and their war reparations are now coming through. I'm sure it's not nearly as much as the Austrian war reparations, but it's not nothing either. 21.2k is a lot of money per week, so altogether that's over 111k coming through to help us invest in our nation. Again, we are currently building quite a few things, which is why we're seeing a huge negative still, but that's working out just fine for me right now. We could go ahead and increase taxation levels to a more reasonable amount over here. Government wages, I think, should stay over here to make sure that the intelligentsia continues to grow stronger and the landowners continue to grow weaker. They're at 18.3% right now, which is promising, so hopefully we can keep that alive and not worry too much about the situation over here, as interest is really racking up. So maybe I've overdone it. No one's going to help us pay off our interest at this point in time, and maybe after this round of construction is done, we should just hold off for a little bit, maybe use our investment pool instead, and then come back to using government money when interest rates are looking a little bit better, or not rates, but interest itself is looking a little bit better. This war, though, is an interesting one now, because it's a war of attrition, really. No one has died or been wounded on the Dutch side. They weren't really involved all that much, but if we try to liberate the Dutch East Indies, their war support is preventing that peace deal from going through. We'll give it some time, and if I feel as though it's just not gonna happen, at that point in time, fine, I'll capitulate and they can hold on to the Dutch East Indies, but it would be so nice to be able to pull that off. Meanwhile, it looks as though Great Britain is trying to make some moves in Indochina. Don't like this. They're trying to force the Siamese market open, and they're also looking to conquer some territory in the region. I could try and step in, though I don't know if I have the resources to do that just quite yet. There are quite a few others who might step in instead. We'll see how this all plays out. Maybe the French will dive in and then no one else matters at that point in time. But I would love to get involved. I just don't think we're able to right now. All right, more government admin buildings about to be completed in Punjab, and if we take a look at their taxation, I'm sure we'll see this number go higher and higher as, again, that, staffing gets topped up at the government admin buildings. Meanwhile, my goodness, France has actually been swayed. They're siding with Siam over here, so it's very possible that Great Britain will step down. They are fearful right now. A few people have spoken in favor of Siam, and I just wonder if I should throw my hat in the ring as well, right? They haven't offered us anything, and we are in the middle of a diplomatic play ourselves, so I don't think we're actually able to do that. Oh no, they don't like us very well, so we can't even support them. It is what it is. Would have loved to try, though I do think Great Britain is likely to back down over there, all thanks to France getting involved. Now, over here, taxation, again, you can see, is popping higher and higher. Love to see it, and I don't even think these guys are fully staffed just quite yet. Okay, they are. Spoke too soon. Meanwhile, in North Bengal, hopefully these guys are staffing up, and we should hopefully see their taxation start to go higher and higher as well. We're going to make a fair bit of money as these upgrades continue to happen, and we're going to use those upgrades, of course, to continue to develop and make even more money. Unfortunately, seems as though our loyalist count has finally dropped below that 1 million mark. Not a fan of that. And our radical count continues to climb. I'm just not sure what we can do here outside of allowing some of these political movements to get what they want, which is obviously not an option. We're neither going to get agrarianism staying or cultural exclusion going, so a little too unfortunate. A little too unfortunate, but I'm sure once this war is done, things will start to recover as a public address goes awry. What was meant as a routine speech about the merits of interventionism by Naval has quickly devolved into a public relations disaster for the industrialists. Fumbling his way through a series of poorly presented talking points, Naval's arguments have been viciously and convincingly picked apart by his political opponents. The question on everyone's lips now is merely if this mishap was due to the inherent failings of interventionism, or can be chalked down to the political incompetence of the industrialists. Is it the fault of this poorly thought-through proposal, or should he take the blame for this setback? Either way, we'll see a huge reduction in enactment success chance. Not a fan of that. Do we want to hurt the industrialists? I mean, I don't want them to grow too powerful compared to the trade unions, but for the time being, we do need them. I can't see the enactment success chance reduced that significantly. Fair enough. Now Naval must take the blame for this setback. Perhaps the trade unions alone are the ones who should take charge over here. I mean, they are increasing their clout steadily. Again, a couple of dips here and there every once in a while, but hopefully they'll take up the mantle and make a decent difference, as Great Britain has decided to back down because France once more making the big difference just in terms of global affairs across the world. Over here, meanwhile, though, there is a revolution brewing once more. This number seems to be creeping up ever so slightly every so often. Just waiting for it to pull the trigger on us, as we seem to have some accomplishments that need recognizing. With the recent investment in Kashmir, the raw goods industry has resulted in a positive balance for the logging camps there. Interest groups are quick to try to claim credit for this investment. The workers should be recognized. Unfortunately, that means the industrialists are going to, oh, no, hang on, they're still loyal once more, so, yeah, nothing to be disappointed about. Landowners still have their noble privileges, but they're not going to let go of those anytime soon. So yes, very well, let us go ahead and push these trade unions further and further up, recognizing the workers and their vast efforts in helping the nation. The Dutch are just willing to give up on this war as it drags on. Again, our own war support is not going to drop below zero, or actually, sorry, I stand corrected. Since now the onus is on us to make a move, it will drop below zero, but at negative 0.63 per week, I think we have plenty of time, and in that time, I think we'll see the Dutch refusal of this peace deal dissipate. Again, if it doesn't, we'll capitulate. We have nothing to lose, right? But it already hit negative 9, and we're still looking at 21.4 on our side. A long way to go before we hit that negative 100, so this is feeling promising. Meanwhile, as all the construction completes over here, let's go ahead and invest some of that investment pool money as we try to recover from some of this immense debt, right? At least temporarily. We can go ahead and take a look at opportunities in Punjab. Do they need more infrastructure? Nope, they're looking pretty good over there. North Bengal as well, looking fantastic. So why don't we go ahead and upgrade these opium plantations who are in desperate need of more engines. So here's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and upgrade these opium plantations by 4 steps, and then we'll head on over to the Punjabi motor industries and upgrade them ever so slightly, using a bit of the government's money, but still keeping a positive balance so that we are able to recover from the debt, right? Again, we have to invest. We can't just leave that money hanging around. And as soon as this war ends, things are going to look much better, as we don't have to worry so much about goods from military buildings. Look at those conscription centers right now, for example, 34k needlessly being spent, all because of my hubris and my desire to separate the Dutch East Indies from the Netherlands. And my goodness, we are making progress, so it's hard to say no, right? Investment pool still has plenty of money. It is flush with cash, so the North Bengali opium plantations will continue to see upgrades. And why don't we go ahead and take a look at the South Bengali dye plantations as well, and just increase their output a little bit too to bring the price over here down. While also, again, keeping an eye on these motor industries, right? We are building some upgrades over here, but it might not be enough, obviously. We might need way more than that, and we might also want to invest a little bit in these steel mills. So over we go to the steel mills in Punjab to make sure that they are seeing productivity increase, while tools are, of course, in need when we are doing so much construction. So hopefully that shortage disappears in a short amount of time, though I will want to get some tooling workshops going as well. Let's see if we can't get them going in Punjab. We have them at a fairly high level, but a little bit more never hurt anybody. And we'll just see if that does the trick, though it seems as though it's kind of fixed itself as these motor industries are almost completed. Nonetheless, our budget's still looking okay. We're still in the positive, and I'm fairly confident that we'll get out of this debt, right? It's all that spend money to make money attitude, just bearing its fangs a little bit, but we'll be okay. We'll be A-okay. Meanwhile, of course, our bureaucracy is looking better and better as well because the government administration buildings generate bureaucracy, and so our tax waste is dropping at the same time as the additional tax we're gaining from all of these extremely populous states. On that front, though, we should definitely keep those upgrades going. Naturally, those investment pools will never actually invest in government admin buildings, so that's entirely on us. And we should also keep an eye on the paper mills to make sure that the cost of paper doesn't get too high up. It is something we'll be able to become the top producer of, potentially, gaining us some prestige. On which note, by the way, I should highlight our successes today have given us the second rank position, well above Austria, well above Great Britain. We are doing fantastically, folks. France is about twice the prestige mark ahead of us, so a bit of work left to do if we want to try and overtake France. But hey, all in due time, right? All in due time. On the topic of time, it seems time has come over here. My goodness, the Dutch are willing to liberate the Dutch East Indies. I cannot propose this peace deal. Let's try and do that. No, still can't propose it. I know this happens every once in a while where, oh, let's try something here. Let's close that. No, still can't propose it. We'll give it some time. We'll give it some time. But I'm fairly confident they'll be willing to accept the liberation of the Dutch East Indies. They might send the peace offer over to us instead, and we'll just have to accept it when it comes. But I'm very pleased to see that this might actually go through. My goodness, we didn't even have to wait all that long. I was expecting a much longer wait, but this was looking pretty good. This is extremely frustrating because, of course, now our war support is in the negatives, so I hope they don't wait this out for too much time. And at the same time as well, don't forget, we are spending a lot of money on all of those raised conscripts and battalions as well that have been mobilized, so it's just draining our income when we should very much be able to push this liberation through, but it's just not allowing us to propose the peace deal, damn it. Oh, would you look at that? Rubber has been discovered in Pegu. We have control over Pegu. It's right over here. And now, granted, I say we have control. The East India Company has control over it for the time being, but eventually that will be our land, and we'll very much be able to take advantage of rubber up over there, and of course down over here as well. That's looking very promising. Again, high demand resource further down the line, and I will very much be taking advantage of that opportunity to exploit, you know, the open pockets and wallets of our foreign friends, let's call them. Folks, I cannot believe it took me so long to figure it out, but I did indeed figure it out, and we are now able to propose our peace deal. If you ever find yourself in a similar situation where you have a peace deal, but the button itself is grayed out, all you need to do is hit set terms to white peace, removing all the propositions, then you can get that offer back on the table and you should see this button can be clicked on. Now, that's obviously not working as it's supposed to. There's some sort of a bug or something going on, and I have dealt with this in the past with other playthroughs as well, but it feels like there are 4 different potential solutions to actually get the button working. I always forget that the surefire approach is to, yeah, set terms to white peace, then pick your offer, and then actually propose the peace deal. Hey, the war lasted a little bit longer than I would have liked. We paid a little bit more money into it than I would have preferred, but at the end of the day, we were able to thwart the first coalition to strike down Punjab. Now, I am able to double dip into these war reparations. In fact, I was expecting this to go into a negative and for me to have to go into a whole spiel about how, like, oh, we might have to wait a little bit longer and maybe I have, you know, haven't got the patience. But no, I'm actually able to double dip on Austrian war reparations specifically. I don't know exactly how that makes sense. The Austrians are no longer involved in this war. They're not even non-negotiating participants. So to me, this is probably a bug. Because the Netherlands should not be able to drag their previous allies, and not even allies, but temporary co-belligerents into this conversation and make them suffer further when they're not even involved anymore. So while it is very tempting to double dip on those Austrian war reparations and to actually get 2 times the 96k that they're paying us, I'm not going to do that because, again, I feel as though that's not working as intended, and I'm trying to keep this an honest playthrough, you know? So we're going to go ahead and avoid the double dip there, but I'm going to gladly liberate the Dutch East Indies from their overlords and celebrate this glorious victory as we propose this peace deal and hopefully see an end to Dutch tyranny in Southeast Asia in just a matter of a few days' time. There's the peace treaty. They were not able to cut Punjab down to size. We are at size. This is the size that we will be at a baseline in the future. Awad and Sikkim, of course, are yet to join us, and of course Pondicherry too. So, buddy, nice try. Please don't come again. Thank you very much. This is looking great. Down over here, we have the Dutch East Indies now completely free of the grip of the Netherlands, and I'm just curious as to what we can actually do with these guys. I mean, we can try and maybe improve our relations with them and see if we can't get them to join our trade union, maybe again become sort of a local powerhouse in the region, right? See if we can't create a larger market for ourselves or something. There's a lot of opportunities that don't involve conquest, right? We don't have to further push our luck outside of chasing after Great Britain. And for that, of course, again, we have to keep our infamy at a minimum, and right now it's looking pretty good compared to when we were previously looking at it, so feeling very, very good about that. Overall, I mean, heck, feeling very good about this session in its entirety, though it does look like the East India Company, no, this is Gwalior, whose flag looks very similar to the East India Company's flag. They are demanding that we end our puppet status with them. Are you for real? Get out of here. No, get lost. Who else do we have over here? Bastar demanding the same? Not a chance. Get out of here. All these fools showing up after this war has been fought, seeking independence. Who do they think they are? 146k is our balance. Things are looking fantastic. And folks, of course, we're going to invest that money right into the country and the economy. There's a few things that need doing. For one, of course, the government administration buildings need some upgrades over here and over here in North Bengal. So let's get all that queued up. And at the same time, you'll see we actually have some goods shortages going down, primarily coal, which we've seen before. Hopefully, as the convoys get unsunk, so to speak, as the shipping lanes repair themselves, we'll see the coal situation get solved. But beyond that as well, I do believe we have a hardwood situation. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at our Kashmiri logging camps and improve these guys a little bit and hope that, you know, the difference they make will be enough. Of course, we can take a look at establishing an import route here as well, though it doesn't look like anyone is willing to provide us with too many goods. So not going to invest too heavily into that, though it might be a matter of our convoy count. Yeah, seems to be the case over here. I suppose I could take a look at upgrading some of our ports or something like that, maybe just to get some hardwood coming through. But we have the industry locally, so why don't we go ahead and explore that option first before we get too involved with foreign powers, right? We see exactly how that can play out at times, getting too engaged with foreigners. They can come, you know, clawing at you. So let's be careful about overdoing our reliance on foreign entities. Interventionism is looking a little worse for wear. Success chance is 6.9%. That's not too hot. I just wonder if we can't take a look at our government over here and maybe do what? Actually, hang on a second. Why do we only have such a low percentage chance of success? Oh, right, I suppose there must have been an event or something. Yes, backed by buffoons. Forgot about that in my panic of trying to figure out how to get the Dutch East Indies liberated. But hey, we pulled that off, and we pulled off the first defense of our glorious nation. I call it the first defense because I am sure there are many more to come, folks. We are still a pariah. I'm sure many more coalitions will form in the very near future, and we'll have to continue to invest in our strengths. We'll have to continue to patch up any weaknesses. We'll have to continue to see increased taxation across the lands so that when these war reparations that are worth, oh my goodness, so very much, we'll have a good bit of income coming in from our own taxation, and we won't have to worry about not having war reparations. If we actually take a quick peek at our upcoming law of proportional taxation, we'll see a decent bump in earnings there as well, which is very exciting, of course. But for the time being, of course, we're busy with other laws that we're trying to pass, and at the same time as well, I'm sure getting some of these government admin buildings up and running is going to make a huge difference. As you've seen throughout this session already, it's been making such a big difference, and there's a long way to go there, right? We have the opportunity to almost double this number, and that's huge. That's 76k, give or take a couple, you know, numbers here or there. So that's huge. Let's not pretend it's nothing. Though, why don't we go ahead and reduce the taxation level a little bit over here because we're making so much money, and military wages can stay where they are as the enlistment offices get unlocked. Perfect timing. Yeah, military wages can stay as they are. Everything else can stay as is. We might want to consider increasing government wages ever so slightly. It'll just add about 20k to our budget. Fair enough, we're still making so much money, and that is with all of this construction actually being funded as well, right? So why don't we try and empower our people, the right people, with those higher government wages, right? I'm talking, of course, about our intelligentsia, while we continue to seek the empowerment of our navy as well, with the ironclad now spreading. Now, it'll be quite some time before we actually get this technology, about 2 years, give or take a couple months, and then on top of that, we have to actually build those ironclads if we actually want to have them up and running. So it's a ways away, but it is exciting to have that option in the very near future. Again, going toe-to-toe with Great Britain is going to require a lot of effort on our part, right? And we have to build up towards that. And that, as I believe I said earlier in this session, was the plan all along. While we are waiting for our infamy to drop before we can declare a fresh war of conquest, so that we can, gain more territory, secure Awad and Sikkim and all that good stuff, we're going to, yes, build up our nation, but also push to liberate some of the various puppets and protectorates and dominions of Great Britain. If we are able to strike at some of the things that gain them all this prestige they have, we're going to find them losing their great power status, which is what we actually need if we're going to try and puppet them without directly reducing the amount of territory they hold. And folks, take a look at that. A brand new diplomatic play. It seems as though we now have the North German Federation making a move in an attempt to cut Punjab down to size. Like I said, folks, that first coalition was the first coalition of many to come. There are plenty of threats on the table over here. Hopefully, the Great Qing and Spain don't decide to side with the North German Federation, because that brings the pain a little too close to home. Of course, we will slaughter them by the millions if they decide to put up a fight. But hey, on the bright side, I'm sure there's a lot of money to be made over here from war reparations. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this session. I certainly did. Very pleased that we were able to thwart this first attempt at cutting us down to size. I'm sure we'll thwart this next one as well. But hey, only time will tell if Fortress India will hold. If you had a good time, folks, don't hesitate to let me know by leaving a like and a comment down below. As always, it makes a very big difference in just letting me know what people are enjoying on the channel. And of course, as always as well, a massive thanks goes out to all of the channel members and patrons who've been supporting the channel on a monthly basis. Y'all keep us alive and running smoothly. And of course, a big old thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.